So welcome everyone. Good morning or afternoon as it may be on this October 30th, 2018. I am Carta Elise, Sustainability Implementation Manager with the Pet Sustainability Coalition, and very excited to bring to you members as well as just folks in our PSC network this webinar on compostable packaging and a pilot opportunity with one of our partners, Elk Packaging. Joining us today is Reyna Bryan. She is the Director of R&D for Elk Packaging. She has a materials and engineering background and is very much focused on sustainable solutions in the business world. She's going to today showcase some of the great work that Elk has been doing in collaboration with several brands in the natural food space to really bring, innovative, actually fully compostable options to the market. Before we fully jump in there, just a little bit of context for everyone, and I just want to remind everyone to keep an eye on your mute button, and please mute yourself if you are not currently muted. I would appreciate that. We, the Pet Sustainability Coalition, have a vision of a thriving and collaborative pet industry that creates positive impact for the communities and environments where we do business. And we do this through a number of venues, from education, so this webinar is a great example of that. Inspiration, you're also going to get some of that today around, what's possible specifically in compostables, and then also around action. We really work with all of our member companies, and as you'll see here, a very large network of companies and steadily growing. We work with all of our companies to take action of some kind, to be, consistently driving innovation for, the entire pet industry, as well as really, build value for your specific brand about social and environmental impact. So just real quick, this webinar today is an example of our larger toolkit series. I'm not going to talk through every piece here, but you can see that there's a lot of value to the toolkit that we have created for our members. And we've had a lot of focus and done a lot of projects around packaging lately. So this in particular, focusing in on packaging, but just so that you are all aware, the PSC this year released our newest version of the toolkit that involves a lot of really great tools and resources for, not just our member companies, but anyone in the network to be able to access great strategies and practical tools to really implement for greater social and environmental impact. With that, of course, yes, we're zooming in on the packaging realm in particular, and I also just want to make a note that we have another webinar on bio-based and biodegradables, compostable, the whole kind of an overview of the entire landscape of this packaging realm. So something that is worth considering if you want to explore more afterwards. So from here, I am going to go ahead and pass the sharing over to Reyna Bryan, and she's going to walk us through some really exciting developments and potential pilot for you to consider in the realm of compostable packaging.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so my name is Reyna. I'm the Director of R&D at Elk Packaging. Elk Packaging has been producing custom printed packaging for over 30 years now, and we're very passionate about sustainability. We've actually dedicated 100% of our research and development to commercializing compostable flexible packaging. And we haven't been doing this, we're not new at this, we've been doing this for over 8 years in partnership with One Step Closer To, which is a group of brands in the natural food space. There's about 30 brands that are really dedicated to the mission of eliminating petroleum-based packaging from landfills in our environment. And so by collaborating with OSC2, we've commercialized several structures together. So today I'm going to share with you my perspective of sustainable packaging. There we go. Why we focus on compostable flexible film, what's possible today, and how brands like you play a really important role in future developments. So at the end of this presentation, we're going to share with you a unique pilot opportunity that Elk is offering the members of the Pet Sustainability Coalition So if you guys are interested in that, we can work together to move the needle forward. So here's an image of our compostable clear structure. So you can see that compostable packaging has come a long way in the recent years. It's not the burlap or the brown paper bags of the past. We're really, really excited at the clarity of this window and the heat sealability of the sealant layer. This particular structure is used for a heat sealable overwrap, so something like granola bar wrapper. So I just wanted to walk you guys through real quickly a look at why we focus on compostable flexible film packaging, and that's where we focus our innovation efforts. So flexible film, inherent in its format, is much more efficient than most other packaging formats. So this is a comparative single metric LCA, and as you can see, we're comparing glass jars, rigid plastic containers, cans, and flexible film. And it's clear that the flexible film is much more energy efficient. It's lightweight, and it's durable. And the industry has been spending decades optimizing this flexible packaging format. So when it comes to energy, this is the best that these materials can do, but there's a major problem. There's no end of life for these materials. So we're adding to the global waste problem, and unfortunately, this is the best that our current packaging paradigm can do. So none of these materials were designed with the end in mind, and that's why we really are focusing on bringing new solutions to the packaging industry. Because scientists are predicting that plastics in the ocean will outweigh the fish in 30 years. I mean, that's a stat that I'm sure you guys are well aware of, but it's a scary stat. And our conventional materials have essentially reached the end of their innovation curve. So it's really time to jump to the next generation of materials and design criteria. And that's what we are doing right now, and we want to invite you guys to participate in that, because we can make functional packaging that will function as the package, protect the product, and then eventually go away and degrade and not add any detriment to the environment. So, well, one thing to just note is, you know, as people become more and more aware of the plastic pollution problem, we're seeing that they are really putting the pressure on brands to act and putting the onus on brands to come up with the sustainable solutions. But unfortunately, most brands don't have the internal R&D resources to develop new solutions, and there aren't very many solutions available. So let's take a quick look at and a quick review of the technical aspects of flexible film packaging. So many of you probably know that flexible film packaging is multiple layers of material laminated together. Each layer has its own functionality, so whether it's print quality, barrier, or sealability. So for compostable packaging, we're replacing each of these layers, which in the conventional structure would be polyethylene, PET, polypropylene, maybe aluminum, and we're replacing them with wood cellulose and biopolymers and compostable polymers. So here's an example of a stand-up pouch that's been on the market today, or been on the market for about 2 years now. This is in partnership with Ultra Eco. And here's a little flow chart to kind of walk you through how we think about design when it comes to sustainable packaging. So we're really concerned about inputs and end of life, where the materials are coming from and where the materials can go after the package is been used. So if you look at the left column of inputs, there's 2 main categories where materials can come from, either bio-based renewable sources or petroleum-based sources. And to kind of add to what Adam spoke about in the webinar before about biopolymers, and he gave all the definitions and provided a great foundation of knowledge, it can get a little confusing when you start talking about polymer materials, because we can categorize those into 2 main categories, which is biodegradable polymers and conventional polymers. But it's strange that you can actually make biodegradable polymers out of petroleum-based products and bio-based materials, and at the same token, you can create conventional type polymers out of bio-based materials and petroleum. So there's a lot of confusion that can happen there. Oops, jump to the next. So when we are designing compostable packaging, we are definitely taking from that family of biodegradable materials. So we're using cellulose, PLA, PBS. There's some new PHA resins coming out on the market in the next 3 to 5 years. And we take those materials and we make a structure out of just those types of materials. And then we also have to be considerate about end of life. So if you look at towards the end of life and compostable, that top line item, we have to design to ASTM 6400, which is the industrial composting standard here in the US. And as Adam talked about, there's only one standard in the US, which is industrial compost. And we designed to that because we don't have a home composting standard. We have there's many different biological regions in the United States where, you know, something that composts in the backyard in somebody's house in Arizona, it's completely different conditions than if they're going to be composting in the backyard of someone in the Pacific Northwest. So we have to have some standards designed to. But what's great about having a standard is it allows us to do our design, send it to the lab, make sure it meets the requirements for biodegradation, disintegration, plant toxicity, and heavy metals, and we can make sure that it meets that stamp of approval before we put it into the market. So that is how we think about designing compostable packaging. And as you can see, there's a lot of different products on the market today. This is just a brief snapshot, but as you can see, we can do vertical form fill, pre-formed pouches like stand-up pouches, high barrier bags like coffee bags. So if you are in a dry, shelf-stable type product, then you most likely can get into one of these structures. So let's jump right into why compostable packaging. We touched on plastic pollution. Of course, that's a big overarching problem that everybody's facing, and brands or consumers are expecting for the brands to act. So there's an opportunity for brands to take the lead here. Also, another problem that compostable packaging can solve for brands is fierce competition. It's really hard to stand out on the shelf these days. So compostable packaging can actually help brands as a marketing strategy, and we'll talk about that in this slide right here. So we're going to take a look and looking at this in a slightly different direction, the value proposition. So what's really exciting about the opportunity is we can not only help the planet, but at the same time, you can increase your brand value and customer loyalty. So there's no lip service here. By being a leader in changing to sustainable packaging, you are really supporting the development of these new biomaterial markets. You're sending signals into the packaging industry that's saying that this is something that brands care about, and we're actually seeing that the more people that jump on board, the more interest that the packaging industry is taking in this particular technology and really pushing on innovation. So that is something that is definitely exciting. There's an opportunity there. But even more exciting is that your ability to differentiate yourself, and you can get unique purchasing opportunities that you might have not had before. So for example, we have a tea company that we put together a compostable sachet for, and they made a big announcement during Expo West this last year. And as soon as they made that announcement, they had Microsoft and Apple approach them, cold call them, and said, you know, we want to bring your tea onto all of our campuses, and we're going to $1 million opportunity for the tea brand. We've also seen that brands have been offered places in Starbucks in regional and even national spots because of their intention to switch to compostable. So although those are food examples, I really do believe that there are some really amazing opportunities for the pet food space to really engage with customers in a different way, and also engage with the purchasing managers and the decision makers within the different retail locations, and use this leadership position that you take in sustainable packaging as a way to leverage more opportunities for yourself. So where are we at today? We can make packaging for dry, shelf-stable products. And really right now, we're jumping ahead here, my technology. We've only tested up to about a pound of material, because most of the products that we're dealing with in the natural food space haven't required much more weight than that. So that's where we're focused right now, and that's where we have had success. And then we also can do high barrier, clear, non-GMO, We can do stand-up pouches overwrap. We took a look at all those different structures, 3-side seal. But there's a lot of opportunity to take the technology further, and there's a lot of work to be done. So we need help from brands like you to take the next step and get into resealable stand-up pouches. We have compostable zippers that are ready to be tested. We just want to test them in like yours, so that we can make sure that they function within the supply chain, and then we get them tested for compostability. We also want to try higher weight applications. So I know in the pet food space, sometimes we have these larger treat bags. So there's some opportunities to make sure that this new generation of sealant materials can withstand all the drop testing and serve as the proper packaging format for those type of applications. And then also high moisture content. In the past, most of the products we've tested have been that dry shelf stable, but there's some new polymers coming into space that might be able to serve those high moisture content type products. So what we really want to do is ask that you guys, as the group that's leading the conversation in sustainability in the pet food space or the pet product space, really take an opportunity to join us and push some of these innovations forward. Let's see, it doesn't want to. There we go. See, I have these. I always joke that this is like me and my partner Jean masterminding new solutions. But I just wanted to touch on a little anecdotal story of how in the past we've really seen that collaboration across multiple brands can make things happen in the packaging industry that wouldn't otherwise happen. So within the One Step Closer 2 group, by working with those brands, we've got really clear about what their needs were from a technical standpoint, and we took their interest and leveraged their collective interest to make the packaging industry do things that they wouldn't normally do, like extrude specialty polymers, or make sure you get this material over here with this special adhesive. So we were able to make all this magic happen because this collective group said, this is something that we're interested in. The packaging industry, or the groups that we partnered with, said, this is enough of potential for us to stop our lines and let you play on our equipment and so on and so forth. So, and then once we get the package done and actually preformed and printed and ready to go, our partners within the OSC2 had taken those structures and we test them on their vertical form fill equipment, their horizontal form fill equipment, and throughout their supply chain, and then they do their own shelf testing. So because of this collaboration, and only because of this collaboration, have we been able to move the needle forward when it comes to compostable packaging. So that's something that we wanted to extend to and involve you guys and really invite the pet world as well, because people that love pets love the environment. At least I like to assume so. So this is a thing that we had talked about. Carta and I were brainstorming about a few months ago during an event at the SPC put on in Boulder. And we said, why don't we put together a little pilot for the members if they're interested to participate and be able to get engaged with this process. So we wanted to put this together for you guys and invite you. Essentially, what it would look like is we want to set up an initial call with the brands that are interested, get a sense of what your requirements are, and to make sure you're a good fit for this next generation of research and development. So we do a quick call, understand your volumes, your barrier requirements, how you package your products today. Then we'll have a quick quote and pricing discussion, because these new biomaterials are fairly expensive. They're only about 2 to 3 times more than conventional materials. You have to understand that polyethylene, for example, is a waste product of oil and gas, so it's very, very cheap, and we're using specialty biopolymers. So as you can imagine, just on a per pound basis, they're much more expensive. But we don't want any surprises down the line. We want everybody to be on the same page of what that change in price might be. Then we look at artwork and get manufacturing specs. We'll manufacture some rolls on your behalf, and then we ask that you test that material on your equipment. We would like to be present for that. And then we work together to look at the pallet, qualifying that package throughout your your supply chain, as well as if it meets that need, that meets that metric, we'll take it down the line to compostable substantiation. So that's the vision, and we want to invite you guys to participate. If any of you are interested, you can send Carta a note or myself a note. One thing that is a little interesting is actually tomorrow is my last day at Elk. I am leaving Elk so I can focus on upstream material and technology innovation and education through my consulting company, Rainchild Design. But I will be working in partnership with Elk and OSC2. So the person that will be taking the lead on this particular initiative is going to be Jean Cloutier, who's our Director of Sustainable Projects, and she can be reached at sales@elkpackaging.com. So I'm going to open it up for questions and an open dialogue, and if this is something that you're interested in, we'd be happy to play in the sandbox with you.
Fabulous. Rayna, thank you so much for walking us through just this really brief, kind of dive into what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And, folks, if you have questions, now is a great time. You can unmute yourself, or you're welcome to chime in via chat. If you're on the Zoom by phone, then you need to dial *6 in order to unmute yourself. So would love to hear, what questions you may have, what feedback you may have, anything that's, particularly alive for you. Looks like one of the phones just came offline, so. Hello there on the phone. Did you have a question?
Hi there, it's Alicia Broussard from Pecurian. I am curious to know what the advancements have been in the actual material that's going into the packaging. That's my first question. And my second question is any information that you have with respect to microparticles and how that has impacted composting at all, or the material that you're using.
Yeah, so when it comes to the materials we use, the technical platform that we like to build things on is wood cellulose. We have a high barrier wood cellulose and a clear wood cellulose, so that's the main meat and bones of our structure. And then the sealant layer, which is the part that actually has to function and is closest to the actual product. We have different technologies that we use, and a lot of them are blends, but it's like a PLA, PBS, PBAT. Those are the resins that we use to make those polymers. When it comes to microplastics, so we design products so that out of materials that do not break down into microplastics, they break down completely. One of the challenges can be is how the industrial composting facility is managing their compost. So one of the things that we're working with is the people that are making the standards, the ASTM standards. They set those degradation. They set it the degradation, humidity, and temperature and time, and then they set it for, I think it's 90 days. But some people that are managing their composting facilities like to turn around their compost in like 45 days. So that can be a challenge when you're designing materials that are breaking down to one standard, yet someone else is operating it. So then you will see you will see some of the package remaining, but if they ran it back through their system one more time, they would completely disappear. So we don't deal in the space of microplastics. We definitely only are using materials that are designed to completely break down to biomass and CO2.
It's fantastic. Thank you, Rayna. So there's several more questions that have come in via chat. So I want to make sure, and for the sake of time, that we're able to get to all of those. And, Rayna, if you're available to stay on an extra few minutes and answer those questions, I'm happy to do that. Of course, folks, in honor of time, if you need to go in a few minutes, that's fine too. So one of the first questions was around the shelf life of the packaging.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a shelf life?
Yeah, we have high barrier packaging, so it's really a question of, what is your needs in terms of oxygen transmission rate and water vapor transmission rate. So what we would do is take a look at your existing packaging structure and look at the barrier properties that it has now, and see where our high barrier packaging lands. But we found that our high barrier packaging does do a good job for the majority of the products. It's not as good as a layer of foil, which is kind of like nobody can be a layer of foil, but we are a high barrier structure that has a very good oxygen and moisture barrier. And then it's really up to the process of determining shelf stability is a brand question, that once we put them in a structure that meets the technical requirements, there's some testing that needs to happen to make sure that the sealing quality is sufficient and that it works through their supply chain or distribution chain.
So if I'm hearing correctly, it sounds like, there's the potential for it to be comparable to other barriers, but some testing is really going to be required. And then it's a function of, the shelf life of the actual product itself too.
Yeah, no, it's comparable to the majority of the structures out there. So a metallized PET, for example, I mean, we're quite comparable. And as we engage in conversations, we'll make sure we pass along, and we'll transfer information on the actual barrier specs.
Great, thank you. So another question, there was an interest in whether or not Elk is third-party certified.
Third-party certified? I don't even know what that means. Oh, you know what? I think they know what they're trying to get at. We work in partnership with BPI, which is the third-party certification body for compostability. So what we do is we will take our solutions and we will get them substantiated, and then after that, the BPI, I always mess them up. BPI will look at the way that it was certified through our labs, and then they can do an additional stamp of approval. And that's normally a brand decision, because it's like, do you want to have the BPI logo on your bag, which we do highly suggest, because consumers really understand what that means.
Excellent, thank you. There's a couple questions around, adding graphics to the packaging. Can you do a matte or soft touch finish? Are you able to do a dual finish? So some questions about kind of the graphic elements and what's possible there.
Yeah, we can absolutely do gloss and matte, and we can do a combination of both. It's just, as you guys know, it's an additional step in the process, because you have to make, you have to actually have a custom tooling to make sure that you can get that pattern that you're hoping for. We cannot do soft touch as of yet, because the chemical composition of the soft touch doesn't meet the requirements for bringing it into a compostable structure. So we do have specialty matte and gloss coatings that we use.
And there's one other question here around clear packaging, and I think I even saw some examples of clear packaging. You're also able to do that as well.
Yep, we can do crystal clear. This is actually really exciting for us, because before we were, the generation 1 type sealant layer that was available was a starch-based sealant, which was we had problems with. It was drying out, and it also didn't give you a very clear window. But now we have new options that are like crystal clear. So we're like losing it over here. We're nerding out on that.
Well, very exciting. And I know, Rayna, in our conversations, I got to see a lot more of the greater context of just the brief history of this exciting innovation, and how much is, developing over just a short few years, and how much more is going to be coming online in the next 5 to 10 years. So I can only imagine the excitement, around those innovations. And, the more participation you get, the more uptake you get from brands, the more we can continue to see this grow. And that's the intention, of our conversation today. Let's see. Another question, and I think that we have another webinar, Rayna, you acknowledged it, with the Sustainable Packaging Coalition that we did a few months ago, that covers this. But how green is compostable compared to recyclable is the question. So
I would say super green.
Yes.
No. Exactly. So my perspective, and I can't. I was going to move back to that slide, but never mind. So there are recyclable flexible film pouches on the market today now, and we can make those for you. They're made out of low density and high density polyethylene, and they're designed for only for storefront collection. So you have to get them. You have to ask your consumers to bring them back to the store. You can't put those in your curbside single stream collection. So I think that that's an option for some brands, especially the high moisture content ones at this time. But the challenge that I have is that it's not supporting the evolution and the growth of these new biopolymer resins and their supply chain. So what we really need is economies of scale so that we can get some price parity with the petroleum-based resins that are out there eventually. And the only way to do that is to get more and more demand of these biopolymers. So even though there's not that great of an infrastructure of compostability yet, and that's something that Adam alluded to as well, there's still, there's just not enough curbside collection available at this time. But we do know that many municipalities and states have goals by 2020 to be zero waste, and as well as significantly reduce their greenhouse gas, and to offer their constituents a curbside composting program is one of the lowest hanging fruit for them to achieve both of those goals. So we are seeing that there's a major uptick in communities that have curbside composting available to them. And so our philosophy at Elk, and mine personally, is we don't want to design to a broken system. So our goal is to really continue to push forward these technologies, and we want to support our friends in the industry that are putting these biopolymers on the market and investing in making them the future.
Excellent. It's so great to hear that market trend in the direction towards zero waste. I know that from here where I'm calling in today, Boulder, Colorado, our municipality has seen incredible results, by integrating curbside compostable, and our greenhouse gas reductions as a result of that, removing all of that waste from landfill has been really tremendous. So I'm glad to hear that there's more uptake, across states, counties, municipalities. And along those lines, in terms of industrial compost as well as backyard compost, is there anything, at end of life of the package that the user needs to do, the consumer needs to do, to put that either towards industrial or even backyard compost? Is this industrial only or backyard friendly as well?
Yeah, we'll definitely walk the brands through that, because that's really, really an important thing, is the labeling. And when we design to ASTM 6400 and it passes the substantiation, it gives brands the right to put this packaging is compostable, but they have to add the disclaimer that it's industrial compostable. And there's a couple other legal terms it's not terms so much, but like specific language you want to use. And we'll, of course, point you in the right direction on that. But basically, because these things will break down under the conditions that are set by STM. But as a brand, you really want to just notify your consumers or your customers that how to dispose of this. And there's some great language that people have had success with.
Excellent. Thank you for your help with that. So some other folks are chiming in around, a concern, and I know you and I have talked about this as well, that, the cost can be 2 to 3 times, conventional packaging. And we also really appreciate your transparency around that. And if you could maybe just speak a little bit to, that concern. Gosh, this would be really hard in this case, Julie is saying, for our CFO to sign off on,
Totally.
And yet these brands are wanting compostable options. So, how do you address that concern around cost? Because obviously
Totally. No, I'm with you. I mean, it's very frustrating because, when you have a particular product that's on the market, you've already defined your cost of goods sold. You've already have like a specific portion of the overall cost that's dedicated to packaging, and you only have a specific margin that is available to you based on the pricing you've already set. So for existing products, it can be really hard to justify that additional cost. And even more so, which I'm working on myself, and that's one of the reasons that I'm going to, and I'm building this other initiative around industry-wide collaboration, is that I don't believe, sorry, we're getting busy. I don't believe that this should only be on the hands, this cost should only, hold on guys, sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, anyways, we don't think that this, the cost burden should be only on the brands. When you look at the price of a package, it includes the distributor's cut. It intrudes the retailer's cut. We have an opportunity to share the small incremental expense of compostable packaging across the entire value chain. And we need to do that because this is a problem that everybody faces. It shouldn't just be on the backs of brands. So that's one point, but that doesn't solve the like immediate thought of how do you justify it to your CFO. So one thing that we have found is that the brands that are looking at this as a marketing opportunity and an opportunity to get into doors that they wouldn't have otherwise, they can take some of their marketing expense or the monies that have been set aside for marketing and bring it in and fold it into what their current cost of goods sold is. And then another thing is if you're bringing a new product onto the market, build in this cost into your cost of goods sold, because this is definitely a value add to your messaging that will and we have seen that consumers will actually bend that way, even if it is a few cents more. So there's opportunities. We totally understand the frustrations, and I'll just say that, like I said, it's just a matter of the raw materials. It's the resins themselves, like are 2 to 3 times more expensive. So that just gets kind of propagated through the system.
Yeah. Well, thank you for helping us understand kind of the fuller picture and the value there. I know from our own market research at the PSC, and I'm going to switch over to screen sharing now, my slide deck as well, just to wrap things up. But, our market research also really bears, that yes, consumers are looking for brands of impact. And, this is a great example of how, a fully compostable package could really sway them to spend a little bit more. And we'll continue to see that trend grow. Obviously, not everybody's on the bandwagon yet. So there were just 2 other questions. One, what does the future look like in terms of liquids? Some of our companies do have liquids, and, kind of how far out is that possibility from your perspective in research and development with your background in materials and engineering?
Yeah, no. Actually, I think I would say that it's going to go faster the more brands that get engaged in this conversation. So I want to just put this out there is, even if you can't switch over to compostable now, if you let people like myself and Elk know that you're interested, that actually makes, just by being interested and staying a part of the conversation, makes waves and makes this magic happen. But in terms of new materials, there are some new biomaterials that are coming onto the market that I'm really excited about that are hydrophobic as opposed to hydrophilic. So most of the materials, the sealant layers that we've been dealing with right now are hydrophilic, which means they like water, it absorbs it, and it changes the mechanical properties. Hydrophilic type materials are it's like oil to water, right? They don't like water, so that they can help be that container for the moisture. And there's some new biopolymers coming on the market within the next 1.5 to 2 years. And so I do think we're not as that far off from that. So
great. Thank you for addressing that. And one last question, curiosity, is Elk Packaging Forest Stewardship Council certified, FSC?
So we use, for some of our folding cartons, so back. Yeah. So the raw material that is used for our wood cellulose is in fact that Forest Steward certified. I always get those acronym weird up. And then for our folding cartons, we also source from sustainable forest certified type sources. So yes.
Great. Thank you. And that really, I think, shows a lot in terms of the integrity that you're bringing into like the full life cycle, of your packaging solutions. So with that, we've gone over by quite a bit, but I hope that this conversation has been really engaging for everyone. Thank you so much for bringing your excellent questions. And obviously, I'm going to have another email address to share with everyone, sales, I think it was, at Elk Design, to connect you with Jean, who will be taking over more for Rayna, but also Rayna, given this transition that you're making, thank you for still spending some time with us today. I know you've played a significant role in Elk's evolution over these years, and it sounds like you're not going too far really, when it comes down to it. So if you have any additional questions for me, for Rayna, for Elk Packaging, please don't hesitate to reach out. I will be posting this recording for everyone to view later as well. And, you know, as always, we are open to feedback. And if this is a pilot that you're interested in participating in, or, you know, better understanding what's possible for your brand, please don't hesitate to reach out and connect with us. It's something that Elk will primarily be facilitating, but we, the PSC, want to be right there with you to support you as our members. And we always like to know, we like to measure what matters, right? So we want to know what works for you, and how this can help inspire other brands along the way. So I think with that, thank you, Rayna, again, so much.
Yeah. And I'll add this one last thing too. If you have additional questions around materials and technologies, you can reach me at rainchilddesign.com. So go check out the website if you have any additional questions. But when it comes to packaging manufacturing, Elk is going to be our partner on that. So.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll look forward to hearing more from you again soon, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.